The wind howls through the dry savanna. A figure moves low in the grass, not a lion, not a leopard, but something far more unusual, upright, two-legged, barely 5 feet tall, bones fragile, eyes wide with fear and hunger. She clutches a rock in her hand, not knowing it will one day evolve into a spear. This is not a human. Not yet, but in this moment, something is about to change forever. What was life really like before the first humans? What pushed early hominins? From scavengers to hunters? And what does this reveal about the roots of our own survival instincts? Let's go back. Not hundreds of years, not thousands, but millions to when we were just beginning. Imagine a world where nothing walks on 2 legs, at least not fully. The sky burns with dry heat. Rivers come and go with the rains. Life is violent, loud, and short. Welcome to Earth. 6.6 million years ago. In this world, survival isn't about brains, it's about teeth. The rulers of this land are predators. Saber-toothed cats with bone-piercing fangs, giant hyenas with crushing jaws, and crocodiles lurking in shallow water. Every step outside shelter means risking your life. Every breath is borrowed. Somewhere in Central Africa, among the reeds and rocky highlands, a strange creature moves awkwardly through the brush. She looks almost like a chimpanzee, long arms, sloped face, but there's something different. She walks on 2 feet, not always, but enough to matter. Scientists today call her Sahelanthropus chidensis, and she may be our oldest known ancestor. But don't let that fool you. She's not human. Not even close. She doesn't speak. She doesn't think ahead. She doesn't know what she is. And yet, she is standing at the very edge of a cliff that we now call evolution. Her days are simple. Climb, search, hide, survive. There are no tools. No fire, no pack hunting, only instinct. She eats fruits, roots, maybe insects. She scavenges the scraps that predators leave behind, if she's lucky. If not, she becomes the scraps. But in her upright steps lies the beginning of something that no animal in history had ever done before. Not run faster, not grow sharper claws, but begin to adapt the mind. What makes Australopithecus chidensis or Aurorin tugenensis so important isn't their appearance. It's their posture. That subtle shift to bipedalism, walking on 2 legs, wasn't just a physical change. It was the first domino. Upright. Movement meant freed hands. Freed hands meant the potential to hold, carry, or later shape. But at this stage, those hands are still mostly climbing tools. The brain isn't much larger than a chimp's. The body is fragile. These early hominins are prey more than predator, and always on the run. They live in fear of the giant beasts of the Miocene and Pliocene epochs, gigantic birds that could tear you apart, massive felines that stalked in the tall grass, and hyenas, ancient, terrifying hyenas that hunted in coordinated packs. If you were an early hominin, every crack of a twig was a warning. Every day was a test. Could you make it to the next? Could your group find water? Could you carry your infant while staying out of sight? No tools, no fire. Just luck and instinct. But nature wasn't the only danger. The environment was brutal and changing fast. Climate swings were transforming forests into grasslands. Rainforests receded. Trees thinned out. That meant fewer places to hide. And so, the hominins who could stand upright, even if just part-time, had an advantage. They could peer over grass. They could spot predators first. They could move faster between safe zones. This wasn't a conscious evolution. It was desperation. Sculpting biology. The ones who adapted survived. The rest vanished without a trace. And slowly, over countless generations, something astonishing was taking shape. Not just different bodies, but different behavior. By around 4 to 5 million years ago, new species began to appear. Ardipithecus ramidus, then Australopithecus afarensis. You may have heard of her, Lucy. Discovered in 1974, her partial skeleton sent shockwaves through science. She was small, just over 3 feet tall. Her brain wasn't much bigger than a chimpanzee's, but her pelvis and legs told a different story. She walked upright, full time. This was no longer an occasional adaptation. It was the new normal, but walking upright came with risks. Slower speed, exposed bellies. Vulnerable young. So why did evolution favor it? Because upright walking freed the hands, and freed hands could do things. They could dig, they could carry. They could eventually shape tools. But even now in Lucy's time, there are no spears, no fire. Not yet, just a growing awareness of the world around her, and perhaps, just perhaps, the tiniest flicker of choice. Insects and fruit still dominate the diet, but meat, rotting scraps left by lions and leopards, is sometimes taken. It's a dangerous gamble. But meat means protein, and protein feeds brains. Bigger brains. This is where things begin to shift. The social structures of these early hominins also begin to change. They live in groups, not just for safety, but for survival. They protect each other. They warn each other. They mourn the dead. And that is not instinct alone. That is something else beginning to rise. Not tools. Not fire, not yet. But emotion. Memory. A flicker of what will one day become. Humanity. They don't know it, but they are walking us, step by step. Somewhere in East Africa, around 2.5 million years ago, a sharp crack echoes across the plain. A stone hits another stone, again and again, until a sharp edge flakes off. This is not an accident. This is intention. Meet Homo habilis. Handy. Man. He's not big. He's not fast. But in his hands is something the world has never seen before. The first toolmaker. It starts simple. A broken rock used to scrape meat from bone. Another to crack open marrow. These tools aren't elegant. They're primitive, brutal even, but they're revolutionary. For the first time in Earth's history, a creature isn't just shaped by nature. It's beginning to shape its surroundings. But how did we get here? The transition from Australopithecus to Homo habilis is blurry. Scattered fossils, fragments of jawbones, and skulls. But one thing is clear, something is changing in the brain. The frontal lobe, the region responsible for problem-solving, planning, decision-making, is expanding. And with it comes something wild. Call on cognition. Foresight. Strategy. Homo habilis doesn't just pick up bones, he selects them. He thinks ahead. He starts returning to places where food can be found. He begins to observe, imitate, and even teach others, not with language as we know it, but through shared action. And then, something even bolder emerges, risk-taking. Scavenging dead meat was already dangerous. But what if they didn't wait for predators to leave? What if they drove them away instead? Used numbers, rocks, shouting, coordination? It wasn't hunting yet, but it was the first time a brain had the courage to challenge tooth and claw, not with strength. The first time early humans decided to confront a predator, not flee from it, was a turning point in history. It was reckless, it was dangerous, and it worked. These scavenger bands, likely Homo habilis, learned to overwhelm solitary carnivores. They hurled stones, waved branches, made noise, anything to scare off a leopard or hyena from a fresh kill. It didn't always succeed. Some didn't make it home. But when it did work, the reward was enormous. Raw meat, fat, marrow, brain, tissue. These were nutritional gold mines, especially for growing brains. Over time, this protein-rich diet began to fuel the very thing that enabled the behavior in the first place, intelligence. The brain of Homo habilis was around 600 to 700 cubic centimeters, noticeably larger than its predecessors. But evolution wasn't done yet. The stage was being set for something even more advanced. Enter Homo erectus. Taller, more athletic, more capable. His brain size pushes past 800 cc. He's not just scavenging. He's moving with purpose. He's using stone hand axes, multi-purpose. Tools that show signs of planning and symmetry. These weren't random flakes anymore. They were crafted, designed, repeated. And more importantly, he's traveling. Homo erectus was the first human ancestor to leave Africa, venturing into Europe and Asia. That meant encountering new climates, predators, and food sources. Adaptation wasn't optional, it was survival. But adaptation wasn't just physical anymore. It required memory, collaboration, and trust. These early humans began to work together, not just to find food, but to plan how they'd get it. Some would scout, others would track. Still others would ambush or flush out animals. This was more than hunting. It was a kind of pre-strategy, and it would become the blueprint for everything to come. Picture a small band of Homo erectus crouched low near a waterhole. One of them motions silently, eyes fixed on a herd of gazelles. The others spread out, fanning into position. There are no words, no detailed language, but there is coordination. Intent. They've done this before. Then, they strike. The hunt doesn't always succeed. Often it ends in failure, even injury. But over time, the act of hunting becomes a ritual, a rhythm. Observation, tracking, anticipation, patience. These are not just physical acts. These are mental leaps. This is the age when humans stop reacting and start predicting. And there's another crucial shift. Fire. We don't know exactly when fire was first controlled. Estimates range from 1.5 million to 1 million years ago. But evidence suggests Homo erectus may have been the first to tame it. Not create it, but preserve it, carry it, protect it. That alone changed everything. Fire meant warmth, protection, cooked meat, which unlocked even more nutrition. But it also meant gathering. For the first time, humans had a reason to sit together, in a circle, in the dark, faces lit by flame. It's in these moments that early humans likely began to bond, not just as survival units, but as social beings. They began to share, to gesture, maybe even mimic stories. A successful hunt wasn't just fuel for the body, it became identity. Who brought it down? How it happened? What it meant. With each generation, the mind grew sharper, the body more agile. And the group more connected. The hunter wasn't born overnight, but slowly, over fire, stone, and sacrifice, a new kind of being was forming. Not just an animal that killed, but a human that planned. The night is cold. Wind whistles through the tall grass, but near a ring of stones, a small flame flickers, casting dancing shadows on ancient faces. One of them pokes at the fire, feeding it dry sticks. Another cradles a child in her arms. No words are spoken, yet everything is understood. This is not a random gathering. This is a home. By the time of Homo erectus, and later Homo heidelbergensis, something more than tools and hunting strategies has emerged. Connection. The fire becomes a new center, not just of warmth, but of belonging. It draws the group together in moments of stillness. And in those moments, something happens that no animal had ever achieved before. Reflection. They begin to care for the sick. Bury the dead. Bones have been found of individuals who lived for years with injuries or deformities, people who would not have survived alone. That means they were helped, fed, protected. Why? Not out of instinct, not out of survival gain, but something deeper. Something like empathy. Around the fire, social bonds deepen. Mothers nurture, children learn, elders remember. Even without complex language, stories are likely told, not through words but through gestures, grunts, mimicry. A hunt reenacted, a danger described, a memory preserved. It's here, in these moments, that the first culture is born, not painted on cave walls just yet, but etched in behavior, repetition, rhythm. The fire doesn't just keep them alive. It gives them identity. And once a species begins to pass down knowledge, not just biologically, but socially, evolution changes forever. This is no longer just survival of the fittest. This is survival of the connected. As these early humans gather around the fire, they're doing something their ancestors never could. They're thinking beyond the moment. They're watching each other, learning, planning. Not just where food is, but when to go, who should go, how to do it better. This is an instinct. This is shared memory. It's how Homo heidelbergensis begins to pass down ideas through action, imitation, and experience. This is the seed of education. And now, the mind begins to imagine. Tools become more refined. Stone points are shaped with precision. Spears are crafted. Bones are sharpened into awls and needles. It's no longer about what's available. It's about what's possible. They aren't just reacting to nature. They're manipulating it. Meanwhile, the group dynamics evolve too. Larger camps form. There's a division of roles, not rigid jobs like in modern society, but a growing understanding that different members contribute in different ways. The elderly? They hold memory. They know the seasons, the dangers, the best shelters. The children? They learn through mimicry, watching every move adults make. And the hunters? They rely on each other with a level of trust and cooperation that no solitary predator ever needed. This interdependence becomes the foundation of something profound. Community. And when humans start to care, not just for themselves or their mates, but for the group, the injured, the elderly, they become something new entirely. They're not the strongest. They're not the fastest. But now, they are thinking together. This was the moment. By around 300,000 years ago, something extraordinary walks the earth. Homo sapiens. At first glance, not much separates us from Homo heidelbergensis or Homo erectus. The tools look similar. The diets overlap. Even the use of fire is shared. But inside the skull, everything has changed. The brain is bigger, yes, but more importantly, it's wired differently. We don't just mimic. We symbolize. We start to bury our dead with objects, stones, beads, red ochre. We carve shapes into bone and paint on cave walls. We begin to sing, to speak in rhythm, to name things. These aren't survival tools. These are signs of something far more powerful. Imagination. We're not just solving problems anymore. We're telling stories. We remember the past. We imagine the future. We teach not just how to hunt, but why it matters. And with that, the human mind fully awakens. The campfire becomes a school, a council, a theater. Around it, parents pass down knowledge. Elders share warnings. Hunters relive battles. Children ask questions. We become not just individuals, but a species with shared meaning. This is the real beginning of humanity. Not the moment we made tools or hunted prey, but when we looked at one another and saw ourselves, when we began to care, to dream, to wonder. From that fire, the very first spark, came every future invention, every city, every language, every love story, every war. Because once the mind catches fire, it never goes back. So, what does it really mean to be human? It doesn't begin with smartphones or space travel, not even with cities or written language. It begins in the dirt, around a fire, holding a broken stone in one hand and a newborn in the other. We evolved from creatures who feared the dark into beings who gathered in it, shared stories in it, and found comfort by the flicker of flame. We were never the strongest, never the fastest, but we learned to think, to remember, to care, and that made all the difference. From scavengers hiding in the brush to hunters planning in the wild. From crude stone tools to the birth of imagination. Our story isn't just about survival. It's about transformation. And it's still unfolding. Every fire we light today, in our homes, in our minds, is a spark passed down from ancestors we'll never meet. But who made us who we are? If you found this journey through deep time fascinating, there's so much more to uncover. Hit that subscribe button to explore more untold chapters of our ancient past. Drop a comment below. What surprised you most about early human life? And don't forget to like and share this video if it lit a spark in you. Until next time, stay curious and never stop wondering how we became us.